Hello and welcome from TAM Conference in San Antonio 2023, Day 2. And with us are here a special guest, Jana Haney. And please tell us a few words about yourself.
Hi Natalia, thank you so much guys for having me here. My name is Jana Haney. I am with the Bridge Across. We are in Houston, Texas. I do private practice work there. I'm a therapist working with step families, single parent families, and high conflict exes, and a little bit of nuclear families when they've got some complex or crisis issues. I also do some work in the family court system. I do parenting coordination, facilitation, and also some court-appointed work there, including reunification and alienation cases or complex cases.
Yes.
So I'm really glad to be here today.
Yes, thank you so much. We've been having lots of different speakers come who have been talking about what they do, because this is all about conflict resolution. And so when you say high conflict exes, can you tell us, Natalia and I were lawyers, and so is Ty behind the camera, but we all do family mediations. And of course, we all know what it feels like to be the mediator trying to help two people who really don't like each other. Tell us, how do you do it? And what are, you can tell a war story if you'd like, but you don't have to, but just tell us a little bit more about that specific practice area.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I will tell you that I did my initial high conflict training with Bill Eddy at the High Conflict Institute. And if you'll remember what Bill talks about, and this is what I talk about when I speak about high conflict dynamics, is high conflict traits are all or nothing thinking, extreme behaviors, unmanaged emotions, and blaming others for everything. So high conflict people never ever take responsibility for themselves. And so when I work with families and children and individuals in these dynamics, our goals are the opposite of these. They are managed emotions, moderate behaviors, flexible thinking, the idea that people are not all good or all bad, situations are not all good or all bad. Either parent is not all good or all bad, even kids, right? All kids have some things we like and some things we like to change. And so the goal here is to help our clients have this flexible thinking. So when you're in a mediation or when you're in a private practice or when you're working with clients in any sort of setting, the goal is to identify if that person has some of these traits and then use your flexible thinking and your managed emotions and your moderate behaviors to help them stay on topic and stay on what you're working on and not veer off into rabbit holes or to why it has to be this way, but to keep them focused. Help them engage their logical mind. What's your proposal? Where do you want to go from here? How can we move forward? And we find that helping people keep their logical mind engaged keeps them from going off into the escalation of emotional outbursts and upset, if that makes any sense.
It does make any sense. I have been really focusing on that in my mediations recently, remembering what Bill Eddy said.
Exactly. Like you have to do it first, right? You have to model for them how to do that.
And then Bill Eddy has been on our podcast, and anybody interested, please check out. These are really good concepts. I also teach his method of communicating.
Absolutely, using Biff and asking what's your proposal. Absolutely, these are really fundamentals. And what I've just done in my practice is take it one step further. And when I'm working with families in reunification, for example, or working with co-parents who are divorced who are trying to figure out how to find anything in common, you know, we use many of these same techniques, but they're not easy and they're often counterintuitive, right? What we tend to want to do as professionals is tell someone, you need to do it this way, and too bad, and I'm the professional. But for high conflict people, that creates a lot of upset and a lot of dysregulation, and you will become a target of blame for them. And that's a really big problem. So you want to stay in your managed self, and you want to extend a hand to work with these folks and to be respectful to them and to assist them in modeling how you need them to be. And if you can stay regulated, they will be more likely to stay regulated.
And we have your website up on the screen, so it's thebridgeacross.com. And this is the best way people can reach you if you want to get in contact?
Absolutely. And I do, long before I have done my therapeutic practice, I myself was married for 11 years. I divorced with 2 young daughters. I lived under a custody decree for 18 years. And then I've been remarried for 22 years. And so I do understand intrinsically and intuitively and literally what this is like and how hard it is. And so what I want to say to folks is feel free to reach out if you wish, but I did coaching and education long before I got my therapeutic license. And so I can work with people across state lines, and I've done quite a bit of work out of state as well through a coaching.
And a concept of, that we are always interested in, and that comes out in mediation, that comes in the courts in any family case, alienation. I also know that you lecture on that, that you teach people on that. Tell us a few words, what you do in these terms, what you do to prevent, what you do to make people understand the detriment it is bringing.
So I think alienation can be referred to in a lot of different ways. We can consider it pathogenic parenting. We can call it gatekeeping. There's a lot of different ways that we address it in the family court system. But the bigger problem is that it's where you have a parent that is a normal range parent who is affectionately available, and then there is another parent who, because of their own problems, their own issues, wants to disrupt and have the child reject this other parent. And when the parent being rejected is a normal range parent who is affectionately available, then we know there's no abuse going on, even if there have been allegations, but there is no confirmation. Then what we often do is look at this other parent who's creating all of this disruption. Because what we know in alienation cases is parents do not have to be perfect. All parents have some good things, remember, and some not so good things. And so with alienation, what happens is those things that parent does, they may not be great, get twisted and expanded in a way that's not helpful to anyone. And so what happens often with parents that are alienating is that they feel rejected or abandoned, and they want the child to reject and abandon the other parent. So we have to work with all the parties to assist them in understanding some of the dynamics, but just moving it forward. And it's a hard thing because there's been a lot of issues around domestic violence and using alienation as a defense, which is where women's groups and other groups get upset. And so there is an understanding of these complex dynamics and these underlying dynamics that are going on between parents and children that often come into play.
Yes, so this is a very, very big deal. Alienation is something we deal with all the time. From the lawyer's perspective, because I deal with clients. Sometimes it's my client who's the one doing the alienation, or in my opinion.
You can't tell.
Sometimes you can't, and sometimes they feed off each other. It's all negativity. But I was going to ask you, what about teenagers? Do you think that it becomes less the parents and then it's more the teenager? Because I have so many cases where the teenagers, I don't want to see my dad, or I don't want to see my mom, I don't want to see that person. How do you address those when it's not with the parent anymore, it's the teen who doesn't want to?
Right, so I think these are hard things, right? Because teenagers are all about individuating, having their own voice. Unfortunately, as therapists, we are taught, generally speaking, if we have no other training but that in our school, we are taught to both validate and empathize with what a teenager thinks. But the reality is there are lots of things that we would not let our teenager do if they wanted to.
Correct.
If they wanted to go out and drink on a Friday night and they're 15, we would not let them do that. If at 16 they wanted to take the family car on a going 3-week road trip, we would not let them do that. And of course, many parents, we have to have our kids in school. For many of us that have religious beliefs, we want our children to go to church. So there are many ways in which parents assert their parental authority. And this is a situation where parents need to be asserting their parental authority. And we need to understand that just because a teenager wants something does not mean we give it to them, or that it is in their best interest.
Got it.
And that's a hard thing.
So,
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I can see that there will be lots and tons to talk more, but it's just a short input from the TAM Conference 2023. And thank you, Jana, so much. We'll be in touch, okay?
Thank you, Natalia. It's great to be with both of you.
All right, guys. Until next time. Take care.